where I think this is really important to start is that inside needs to be in place before out is. And what I mean by that,
I like that. Oh,
yes. What I mean by that is that in order to receive appreciation or feel it or acknowledge it or whatever, be appreciated for all the things you do, you have to do it internally first. Because if you go around saying, I'm only going to feel good if you appreciate the sacrifices I've made, or you appreciate the meal I just put in front of you, or you appreciate that I just did your laundry or cleaned the house, or...
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Deliciously Motivated Mindset with Debz. That'll be me. And Moira. That'll be
me. Hi there.
Hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, today is a goodie. Today is a goodie.
You know, I don't think we've been saying that every single episode, so we slipped a little bit.
Have we not?
No, I don't think so. But
well,
this one is a goodie.
This is a goodie. We know all ours are goodies. We've gone, what about that? And what about that? And oh yes, let's do that. And we have a long list of we must be a good 100 on that list.
Yep.
Yeah, of things to talk about.
Things to talk about. Yep, definitely.
Yeah, but today is definitely a goodie. Today is definitely a goodie. But first, I would like to say, one is welcome. Thank you for joining us. And two is, if you haven't been with us before, or you have been with us before, you know that we like to rate ourselves. And rating ourselves is a scale of 0 to 10, and it just allows you to check in with where you are emotionally, where you are physically, where you are mentally, just where you are. And then by the end of the series today, conversation, you rate yourself again just to see if you've shifted in a number. And I personally find this incredibly valuable when you are functioning through the day. I like the way I say that, functioning through the day, or not functioning. And when you can see that maybe you wake up and you're a certain level, a certain number, and then halfway through the day you realize you just want to lie down on the couch or just take a breather, or you've suddenly got all this energy, you can rate yourself again. Just a great way to check in to see where you are and what's really going on.
It's a really beautiful way of keeping you present to whatever it is that's going on, good, bad, indifferent, and all of the in between, right?
And there's no right or wrong in your number.
Absolutely.
Just emphasize that. Our intention is not to put you in shame and guilt. Yes, it is. No, it's not.
Don't listen to the subtitles.
No. Yeah. The intention is not to put you in shame and guilt, and this is just to acknowledge, which is perfect in life. So in saying that, a 10 is when you are completely frazzled and chaotic and can't even reach for the light to turn on to wake you up or anything. You just know the light switch is somewhere out there and it's just too hard. That's a 10.
Yep.
And a 0 is a
beautiful blanket wrapped around you, feeling so peaceful and totally present.
Yeah, totally present. Yeah, that's the one. Totally present, totally inspired, and just not energetic, just feeling the beauty of it. Present, poise and grace. Yes. So in saying that, Moira, where are you on a scale of 0 or 10? Where are you on a scale of that?
I'm going to say I'm at a 2. 2 feels I'm excited about our topic today. But I have quite a few things going on in alignment with this appreciated inside and out topic. So yeah, I'm going to put myself at 2. How about you?
I'm going to say a 2.5. And the reason I say that is because I've got the hiccups and something keeps happening that I'm having to quickly mute as I go and get the hiccups. But I'm also yawning a bit, although I don't feel it in my body. I feel invigorated and my mind feels it, but I'm yawning. So there's something going on there. So I'm going to say a 2.5. And that's good. Where I am.
Sound
perfect.
Yes.
So we're a 2 and a 2.5. Let us know in the chat where you are. That's really helpful. And when you get to the end, we're going to also check in where we are. So let's kick off. Being appreciated inside and out is our topic. Where are we going to start this one, Moira? I'm throwing it back at you on this one. Where are we going to start this? Because this is anything.
It's anything. And the thing where I think this is really important to start is that inside needs to be in place before out is. And what I mean by that,
I like that. Oh,
yes. What I mean by that is that in order to receive appreciation or feel it or acknowledge it or whatever, be appreciated for all the things you do, you have to do it internally first. Because if you go around saying, I'm only going to feel good if you appreciate the sacrifices I've made, or you appreciate the meal I just put in front of you, or you appreciate that I just did your laundry or cleaned the house or took kids to school or whatever it was. If you don't appreciate you as an amazing, beautiful, divine, gifted being, if you don't do that first, it's not going to happen from the outside. Don't you think?
I do. And I really love the way you've said that. And it's totally about being grateful. Like the crunch of it is absolutely that. But here comes the but. But sometimes it is, you're sitting at that 10, and you can't just acknowledge or appreciate what is on the inside. And so you think you must fix the outside, because that is, and I'm going to say that's an old pattern or an old story, or maybe the way we were back in the older day. Or definitely maybe for me it was about I didn't do a lot of work internally growing up. It was lessons or experiences or what you'd like to call it, but I didn't know that's what it was. Whereas if I got into this kind of work when I was younger, I would have definitely been a different person to who I am now. Even just knowing to count your blessings or being grateful, just those little things. But I don't recall anyone ever saying that to me growing up. So I don't know if that is just my upbringing, or if that was, now we're talking more, people go, there's more and more people who are depressed, or there's more and more suicides out there in the world, or there's more and more people, those things. And I just go, is there? Yeah. Or is it just because we're actually seeing it now? So I don't know the statistics of those sort of things. Yeah. But is that just because we're actually more aware, alert, open, can see and feel our emotions compared to back in the day? If I go back to Nana's day or back past Nana, was it okay to say I'm not feeling well, or I've just had this child and I really don't know how to bond with this child? Like, is that, all those little things. So my growing up was more, build a bridge, get over it type thing, than let's unpack this. Let's go, what does this really mean? Which is what, well, you and I teach here, in fact, here on this podcast. Absolutely. But does that make any sense about that?
It really does. But do you know my own, and I have read a few other writings on this, that we may think that it's way more, but it's only because of social media, of the instantaneous, like think about back in your grandma's day, and she witnesses a car accident. They weren't all getting out their smartphones and videoing it. and then posting
Right.
it on Facebook or on whatever Snapchat or Instagram. But we do now. People do it now. So there's that part, but then the other part that is more sneaky and more insidious, I believe, is that, let's say you're scrolling through your social media feed, and there's somebody that you know, or somebody that you went to school with, and you see them being all successful. They're got a great business, a great partnership, and a great this, that, and the next thing. And then you think, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, look at that person. I need to aspire to that, or I have to be like that, because I can't be appreciated unless I measure up to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So therefore, you're not actually appreciating who you truly are, because you're measuring yourself for something that's maybe you don't even have those gifts or those abilities. But the more we give power to that and say, I can only appreciate myself if I achieve those types of scenarios.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, yeah, but where's your flavor? Where's your essence? What makes your heart sing? What do you appreciate and love about yourself?
That's a great example of, so I'm 40 plus, haven't hit the 50s yet. I can say yet. I can say that this year.
Yeah.
But when my daughter, who's 21 now, she was coming out of school, she said, I have to go to university. I was like, why? She's like, well, you didn't, Mum. I'm like, yeah, back in my day, it wasn't having to go to university, it was actually get out and get a job. So at 16, I went out and got myself a job. Instead of 18, went to university. I chose to do that. And so I was like, you don't have to go to university. You can. And she was like, no, Mum, we all have to go to university. Times have changed since you were younger. And it's just really interesting to even that scenario there. If you're interviewing somebody or wanting somebody for a job, what university do you go to? You're not going to ask my generation as much what university you go to, what experiences have you had? Whereas the early 20s, what university did you go to?
Right.
So what I'm saying is times definitely have changed, and we have evolved in certain ways. And I think in that is we just have to evolve with the times.
But also, don't you think that in that scenario, like you're saying about Sophie, it's about, my feeling about that is that if she's appreciating who she is inside, then she has a trajectory set, or some dreams or goals ahead to say, I want to get to that role, and in order to do that, I need to have a university education. Yeah. Whereas other people who may say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a coach, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a fill in the blank, self-employed, whatever. Yeah. You don't need a degree for those.
Well, I think it's also, society says you need that. Society says you need this. Society says you need this. And
yeah, don't listen to society.
And listen to Moira and Deb. Listen to Moira and Deb.
Yeah.
And well, Sophie did and didn't. She's in the Air Force now. But she did 6 months. Well, maybe 6 months, I don't even know, at university, just as a filling the gap,
right,
kind of thing, to go and experience. So yeah, I've ticked that box. Thank you. That was 6 months was enough at university, before she went into the Air Force. So there was that thing, but that gave her, there was so much she got from that. But then my daughter's just totally unique, as I can't understand why she wants to work with someone else. Why would you want to work with someone else? Can't I show you that you can actually work for yourself? She's like, yeah, look what you do, Mum. Like, are you a prime example? But that's me projecting my stuff on her. But it's totally about her owning and taking ownership of who she is and what she would love to play in this world, and not listen to those outside sources.
Exactly.
And that's about being appreciated inside and out.
Yep.
I don't know if she's going to be able to do that in the Air Force, just saying, Sophie. Because, you're bound by a lot of rules there. If you didn't have a lot of rules at home, you've definitely got a lot there.
In that regard, I think that we have the capacity to do that, but just so long as we appreciate ourselves enough to say, this is part of what I chose. Right? And in Sophie's case, I think that that's a really valuable part. There's another strong driving force there for her that aligns with her. Wouldn't align with me. I kind of I'm more of a quirky way sure.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like and that's how come there's so many different flavors and nuances of all of us. And that's how come I was saying about don't compare yourself to other people. Don't listen to society.
Yes.
Don't listen to those conversations that says everybody says, or everybody does, or everybody thinks, because you don't know.
Don't lose yourself on your journey.
Yeah. And always be checking back in. How do I feel about myself? Am I being appreciative and grateful and honoring to what my heart's guidance is, or what my heart's
that's one of your
is?
things, is how do I feel? I was just like, hang on, I've heard that before. It's on my little post-it note in front of me.
How do I feel about myself here?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Is this good for me? Is this good for others? You know, and do I want to?
And
like,
do I want
all
to?
Three are a yes. If all three are a yes, then
you
go ahead.
You can't go ahead unless all three of those are a yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that is it. So being appreciated inside and out, you have to appreciate yourself for others to appreciate you.
Yes. And you can't do it from a place of, I better do this because
I'm going to obligation.
Yeah. There's no should or obligation.
Yeah.
Or pretending.
Yeah. There's no, and I think that's it. So that being appreciated inside and out is you. Mm-hmm. You must do that. And when you own or take the power of who you are, when people say or do things to you, you're not reactive. In fact, we were talking about this before we got on the call. Of course. I'm like, hang on, which is exactly before we even knew what the topic was. But that's exactly it. When you just sit in your own power and you're like, okay, well, you can say those things to me, but it's not affecting me because this is who I am.
Exactly. Or, you know, thanks for your opinion. Because we can hold space for disparate opinions and patterns and thoughts. But it's when we appreciate who and what we are within, then we can say, okay, I see you. I see you with your, and we might have a wee dialogue and like, no, that's a bit weird. But you know,
see you, but there. Cuckoo. Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is it's the word integrity comes into mind.
Yes, very much so.
And this is it. So when you have your integrity that sits right in alignment with your soul and your being, then those decisions aren't made out of desperation or resentment, obligation, any of those things. When you just go, this feels right for me, this is who I am, that's true integrity. Then I can say these things or not say these things. In fact, we were talking about that before. You know, you were having a conversation with someone and you just were so close to saying something and then went, don't. And that's, and, you know, and we would call that poking the bear. It's like, oh, they're not even worthy of it, you know? Yeah. And so your integrity just goes, it's not worth it. It's just carry on. Let someone else, you know, have that whole thing. But that's, integrity would sit into that being appreciated inside and out, but it has to be you.
And what the piece that you just shared reminded me of a blog post that I wrote years ago, actually, I think it is. Time flies, right? But
the other day.
This blog post was all about making sure that you were coming from inspiration and not desperation. Right? So is this an inspired choice? Am I inspired to say yes to this or no to it? Or am I doing it because I'm desperate for an outcome, or a should, or a have to, or a right? And that
have to,
So integrity says I'm aligning with my inspiration, and I'm not allowing myself to get caught off guard into a derailing of
spiral.
Desperation. Downward spiral of desperation.
A hamster on the wheel. Yeah.
Because let's face it, we're always at choice, right?
Yeah, I think well, the thing is, people, you know, so much I've heard lately is people go, oh, I'm a people pleaser. And that just makes me go, oh, I cringe when people say I'm a people pleaser. And I do please people in certain ways. hang on, that sounds wrong. Just went there. Okay, hang on, let's take that one back. Yeah.
Where are you going now?
Yeah. Do. I do, please people in certain ways, but I do it because it feels good for me. It feels in alignment with who I am, but I don't do it for those other people. Like, I'm not going to take on every client that comes to me. And so if I took that person on, if that's going to sit out of alignment with me, then I'm not going to do that. And I know that there's going to be someone far better out there that can take that client. So I do pick and choose my clients, and I think that's it. Is this good for me? Like you say, is this good for me? Does this fill my cup? Is this something I'd love to do? Because
does this make my heart sing?
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciously-motivated-mindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciously-motivated-mindset.com/gift.
Yeah, because it's for me, not because I'm going to be able to do something with somebody else that's doesn't feel right.
So I want to share something with you here, though. And I know you don't like the term people pleaser. But
no.
truth
Here we go.
be told, is that's where that question came from for me, because I am a recovered
people pleaser.
People pleaser, yes. And I actually work with quite a few of my clients are working through that too. And really that label is having the propensity to put other people's demands or desires or agendas above your own. And so to your point, you had
I have to mute here because I'm just going to go grrr.
But you have a beautiful way of framing that, because I'm called to be of service. But in order to be of best service to all those that I serve, I can't work with everybody, number one. But number two, I have to fill my own cup first. Yeah. And then get into the group sessions or the one-on-one sessions or even the conversations that I have with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But that's where it's coming from, is that yes, make sure that you are always the top of your list. Am I being of service? Am I appreciating me? Because that's what I said at the beginning of our conversation here today, was appreciation. You have to have the appreciation on the inside, appreciating you first. Then the rest of it flows.
There's so many memes or analogies to do that, put yourself number one, put yourself at the top of the list, and people go, oh, but I'm a single mother. I was a single mother. Oh, I still am actually, but I guess doesn't make a difference. She's 21. You got to put your daughter first. You've got to do this. You've got to. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't help my daughter if I haven't eaten, or I can't help my daughter if I haven't slept, or I can't, so it's like, no, I have to do me first. I have to put my own clothes on before I, do her.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's exactly it, is that being appreciated inside and out is having your own integrity of being your own person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That you have to, and that's why that question, how does this make me feel about me?
Yeah.
If I feel, oh my God, I'm hungry, or I'm tired, or I haven't got my clothes on and it's cold, then that's some guidance for you to sort of say, oh, wait, me on the top of the list.
Yeah, I remember when we had, and people were mortified, we had the Christchurch earthquake, and my daughter and I were part of the Christchurch earthquake, and in fact she had a waterbed, which probably wasn't even remember the old waterbeds? She had a waterbed, and I was in the earthquake happened, and I ran to her bedroom to say stay there, because I thought the best option was stay there, forgetting she had a waterbed, and it's probably way worse in the waterbed than in a normal bed. And then I got to her door. Yeah, yeah. Then I got to her door and realized I was naked because that night I'd had a spray tan, so I didn't want to put my things. So I then went, stay there. I ran back to my ensuite and grabbed my dressing gown and then ran back to her. And when we talked about it, I said to Sophie, well, I didn't want to get caught under the rubble naked. Like I didn't want firemen to find me like that. Like I was a little bit, vain. You can call it vain, whatever you want to label it. And then people Sophie and I found it quite amusing and Sophie's like, of course you went and got yourself covered up, Mum. Of course you put yourself first over your daughter who was terrified in the waterbed. We definitely painted it out to be a big picture. And we thought it wasn't a joke, but it was just a great way of us to actually deal with it. But the backlash, the conversation of people were mortified. And if you're one of those people, this is a perfect time for you to start looking at that thoughts and judgment of what you have about others.
Really?
Because they were mortified that I left my daughter in the bedroom, and didn't keep her looking her in the eye, and left her in a waterbed, and made sure I was pretty myself. I never said I did my hair. Like I just put my
didn't put your makeup on and do your
hair.
Didn't
do any of that. Didn't quickly jump in the shower so that my tan didn't smudge or anything. Like there was none of that. But the real clash of what people thought of me as a mother. And poor Sophie, you poor wee girl, poor Sophie was really
That's quite an eye-opener.
Yeah, really alerting me to how much judgment. And of course, Sophie and I were like, what? Like what?
Yeah,
like
come
we
again?
Both survived. And I remember Sophie saying when somebody said it to her, Sophie says, if I can handle an earthquake in a waterbed with my mum not being there, I can handle anything in the world. Like I remember her literally saying, and this person was like, oh, you've just been fed that information. And Sophie was like, oh, Mum, let's go. She just looked at me and said, let's go. Because it was one of those things that you're not going to be able to feed this person any information. They're not going to hear it. They're so sitting in their judgment bubble. But
so they're just really stuck with their own little loop. And here's the interesting piece about stuff like that though too, is I believe that people who are that judgy have lost the ability to sit and appreciate who they are.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're seeing that oh my gosh, I have to come to the defense of that poor wee Sophie and terrible Debz. How dare you be?
Yeah.
So it's all outward focus as opposed to, for me, it's like, whoa, what's going on inside of you?
Yeah. What's really happening in you?
Yeah. That you think it's okay to sit in that level of judgment.
It really opened my eyes to another level of human behavior that obviously I've been close to. And I mean, I'm sure if you ask Sophie now, as a 21-year-old over as a 10-year-old, she's going to put some massive, if we got her on here, she would tell you a massive spin. Mum did this, she flicked her hair behind her ears, and she's like, she will definitely put a spin on it. I know that she's had another 11 years on top of that scenario.
Other stories to bounce into.
Yes. And then there was the time Mum did this, and then there's the time Mum did, and I'm like, okay, I can stop now, Sophie. But this is exactly, so at that very moment, I chose to appreciate myself inside and out. Well, actually, I didn't, because I chose to cover myself up purely for the benefit of the benefit of the firemen or firewomen or fire people who could have potentially
have to come and help.
Yeah. But I held on to my integrity. I knew in my mind, I knew Sophie was in my mind at that time. I chose to do that. I knew she would have been safe. I felt she was safe. I told her to stay in bed. Like now, I didn't know what to do in an earthquake. This is our first earthquake. Now it would be very different. I'd go, of course, get out of bed as very quick as you can. And, like under the doors, under the frames.
Door frame. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the time I was like, even though she had a massive glass window beside her bed, massive, like stay in that waterbed, you'll be safe. But that's uneducation. That of course. I went from that.
It's not like you have an earthquake every day.
No, I can't remember when we ever learned about earthquakes. It would have been, probably Sophie's age, 10 at school or something. But at that moment, I chose to appreciate myself inside and out and make decisions for me.
But you see, even in that, just from the story you shared, it's not like you took off for half an hour I'm sure if you just ran to the ensuite and grabbed your robe,
It's 3
you would be
steps.
back. You'd be
Her bedroom
back
doors,
in
3
20
steps
seconds.
to my ensuite. Yeah, 3
yeah.
steps. And yeah, that's literally it. It was very close. And I mean, I can definitely put my spin on that story to say I was a bad mum, or I can put that spin on to say I was a good mum. But at that time, I was a mum. There's no spin of good or bad.
Exactly. You were just making the choices based upon what showed up in front of you right then. And
Absolutely.
really, that is what appreciating internally is all about. Because that's another
presence,
piece. It's total presence. Because that's the other thing. And this is something that I've said to clients many times over the years, is that all too often we have the propensity to kind of look at something maybe we did 5 years, 10 years ago, and we go, oh my God, I really screwed that up. How come I didn't make this better choice? Or this is blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yep.
Because maybe we've got judged for it, or maybe we didn't get the best outcome. But the key piece is, and this is what I say to people, is how dare the current version of you beat up the version of you that you were 5 years ago, or however long it is, because you weren't that. To your point, right? You've got 20 odd years on top of that incident. That's all wisdom that you've gathered and become, and changed your persona and how you react, and the things you know to do and to not do. So you can't take the current wisdom and awareness that you have and then look at that incident 20 odd years ago and go, oh my God, I was terrible, because you weren't.
Yeah.
Appreciation says I did what I did because
how many times do we do that? How many times do we go back to that?
I know. It's so wired into many of us.
And we hold on to that story. And that's why we procrastinate. We're like, oh, I remember 20 years ago, I didn't do this and this. So I'm not going to do it again.
Exactly.
20 years ago. I'm watching we've got a thing in New Zealand at the moment called Celebrity Treasure Island. And one of the people on there is a woman who I went to school with.
Okay.
And I can hear myself, because we've all changed from school. Like, I'm no longer 16 anymore, clearly. And I go, and there's starting to get some real drama going on. And there's talking behind people's backs. And I said to my partner last night, I said, oh, she's going to hate that. She is so not drama focused. And I heard myself and then went, Deborah, you're talking about someone who was 16, 15, 16, 17.
Right.
We're now late 40s. So she may be drama focused. She may or may not. And then so I was like, oh, I'm like, but she may have changed. I said, but she may have changed. And then it had a snippet of her just saying, I'm not really doing well with the drama, or something like that. Like, I'm not really doing
it. You got
and I was
confirmation.
Like, yeah. And then I'm like, maybe she's not. Maybe she still doesn't like the drama. But it was quite funny to go, for me, instantly to see her on TV and go, God, she was never into the drama back then. It was just, this is who I am. Like, she really held her own of who she was. This is what I'm choosing to do. And me say that because I remembered her from, 30 odd years ago or so. Yeah, it was really interesting. And then to say, oh, she was never into the drama back then. And just to really go back to who they were. And so you're right. And we say this all the time, who you were 20 years ago, even who you were a year ago, like, or who we were as business people prior to pandemic.
Absolutely.
To how many people have put
now.
How many people have put their programs online? Okay. Oh, I can't do a program online because I prefer traveling around in person. And
how's that working?
How many? And now I'm online.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. Who you were a year ago, 6 months ago, is so different to who you are now, because you've had that.
Who you were yesterday.
You've had 24 hours of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's about appreciation too.
Well, that's your 0 to 10 too. Who you were yesterday. Maybe you might have been a 10 yesterday, but today you're an 8. Yeah. So, you're different as we go. And that is exactly it, is being appreciative inside and out.
Yeah. And just owning. Like, not going into judgment, because that's the other part of it, that we can go into conditions and judgment of, oh, well, it needs to be better, right? It's not good enough. it's
I
just
should have made this decision. Why did
Mm.
I do that? Beat myself up because flog myself because I've done this, this, and this. It doesn't go like that. It doesn't go like that. And it is totally being okay with your decisions you make. And I guess that's that thing is trusting yourself. You know,
Yeah.
I know Dr. John DeMartini says the person with the most certainty rules the game. And it's so, and you can call the world the game, whatever. It's so true. If you have certainty of who you are, you can rule your world because that is your world. And it's not about being self-righteous and above anybody else, but it's actually, this is who I am.
Yeah,
This is
with
why I make the decisions.
With confidence and trust. I love that you brought trust into this because it's
Yeah.
so important.
I think, trust is a big one. Trust is, now that's a podcast on its own.
Mhm.
Also aware of our timings. Trust is a whole new
Oh,
episode.
it's a whole conversation all by itself. But
that's a mini series. That's a 6-part mini series.
yeah, but you know, how can you appreciate yourself if you don't trust yourself that based on what's right in front of me, I will make the best decision. I'll make the right choice based on what's right here. And I appreciate that even if I can't see the answer, I appreciate that I'll be able to recognize it when it shows up, right? That's it.
And well, then when we're talking about trust, we're talking about love.
Yes, very much
because
so.
that is so, I love all my amazing parts about me, but I also love all my icky parts about me.
Yes.
And they are just parts.
They're just parts, absolutely. And they're both ends of a spectrum too.
Yeah.
Right. You know, this is something that I often talk about with clients is that we talk about the law of attraction. When we appreciate ourselves, our energy, like the vibe we give out is positive, uplifting, love-based. And so also too, another piece about the law of attraction is I think that part of it is allowing ourselves to find our preferences. And sometimes in order to know what we prefer, we do have to sit for a wee while with the things we don't and say, oh, I don't prefer that. But understand that every time you feel or into something that you don't prefer, then you can say, good, thanks. I appreciate. I now know I don't prefer it to be that way. So now I can get really clear on appreciating what I do prefer.
Yeah. And that is all about just being present. And not having if there's any shame or guilt or anything that's sitting in there from the past, anything that's hanging back there, anything. Yeah. And that's another podcast on its own. But look, I love the appreciate inside and out. I love that you know, I will put on my favorite undies, or I'll put on my favorite lipstick, or I'll put on my favorite perfume. I'm a perfume queen, and I do wear a lot of perfume, just the one smell at one time, but that's a part of me is appreciating my outside as well,
right?
But
absolutely.
It's also, you know, so there is those other things that we do on the outside.
Yes, but we do it on the outside because we appreciate the inside. Like I always have my purple nails. Yes, they look great, but it's part of me appreciating. I even have my purple earrings on today.
Of course she does.
That's me appreciating me, but then people seeing it appreciate it too, and so it's a win-win. Awesome conversation. I hope this has helped our listeners kind of get clear on this idea of staying present, of really, really owning and appreciate your amazing uniqueness and shining it. That's what this is about. That's when you get the appreciation on the outside. It's because you're shining your uniqueness and sharing it.
Well, that's actually what we do. Yeah, you just did a little snippet about that energy. You know, we didn't thought we are going to talk about that actually. It's like, yeah. Well, maybe there's a part 2 in here.
Maybe we need to do a part 2. Yeah. All right. So if you did, talking to our listeners, if you did rate yourself at the beginning on that 0 to 10, check in again and let us know. Did you shift up or down? And again, there's no right or wrong here. So that being said, you were a 2.5 at the beginning, Deb.
No, I would say, am I a 0 or am I a 0 point? Or 0.5. I'm a 0. I feel like it just all loved. I'm going to say a 0 because I do feel completely, and I don't feel I have to worry about my day or anything, even though I'm going into the day and Moira's going into the night. I don't.
That's right. That's right. But
I'm
and
gonna say
you're
0.
not yawning, so that kind of says.
Oh, I
you
haven't
can
even
do something.
noticed.
Yeah. See.
I had a couple of sneezes. And yeah, no yawning. Yeah, I'm definitely a 0 then.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Nice
I'm a
pickup.
0 too. I'm a 0 too. Appreciate it inside and out. Awesome conversation, Deb.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Thank
Yeah,
you, Moira.
thanks.
Thanks for letting us unpack that. That was
a lot of fun.
It was lovely.
It
Yeah.
was wonderful. All right, dear listeners and dear Deb, see you next time around. We'll
Yes, you
talk to you
will.
next week. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.